Hi folks, Dave, the Honest Audiophile. This is the Shanling Sono, and these are my Honest Audiophile Impressions. I want to thank Shanling Audio for providing the Sono for review. Do greatly appreciate it. Shanling Audio, you rock. Okay, so the Shanling Sono, this will set you back $80 from your bank account. It is a triple driver hybrid, and it has two dynamic drivers in a coaxial design. First one is a 9.2 millimeter bass driver with a bio diaphragm. The next is a 6.8 millimeter mid-range driver with a LCP diaphragm. And then you have the single custom-made balanced armature for the treble. 16 ohms of impedance, 103 decibels of sensitivity, and a frequency response range of 16 hertz to 40 kilohertz. Oh yeah, and it includes two interchangeable nozzles for sound adjustment. The Sono, it comes in this very plain black box, just the way I like it. It says Sono, a little bit of blue coloring on it. On the back side, you have more blue and some specs. And then, we've got a high-res sticker. It's got to sound good. All right, the inside is very uninspiring, so we will move on to the accessories. You get a carrying case, nice hard shell, pocket, and a bed to set your IEMs on. It will protect your IEMs very well. And then you get a tray of tips. You get dual flange tips, and then you get extra small, medium, and large of these silicone wide bore tips. The medium ones come pre-installed, and those are the ones that I used for the review. And then you get your interchangeable filter nozzles. Now these are extremely small and very, very easy to lose. So that's where having a cat as a pet comes in handy. If you drop one, they will quickly find it for you. Right. So you have two filters. One is got a red ring on it, and then the other one has a black ring. They do make a difference in sound. The red filters definitely add more bass and make it sound extremely V-shaped. It also adds in a little bit of warmth, and it maybe tones down the upper mids and lower treble region a very little bit, but definitely emphasizes the bass more than the black filter, which is a slight less V-shaped and not quite as warm sounding, and you get a little bit more sparkle and energy up top. All right, moving on to the Sono. So the Sono are a metal shell, very, very fingerprint magnets, and shiny reflective. You have a little bit of branding here on the faceplate, which is extremely hard to see on camera, and not really that thick of a shell. They are a little bit on the chunky side weight-wise, but not too bad. You have a smooth back that is sloped. Pretty aggressive angle and a fairly long nozzle. And of course, you just spin off the end of the nozzle for your tuning filter. The cable of the Sono is okay. It's nothing too special. It does tangle and twist just a little bit. Has fairly aggressive ear hooks. And then at the split, you have a cinch, which does not work at all. The cinch does not stay in place. And then you have a simple twist that terminates into a 3.5. I did find that the Sono are fairly comfortable to wear. I had no issues there, 3-4 hours at a time. The only times that I wasn't able to wear them that long was using those dual flange blue tips. Those did not fit my ears very well, and I would only be able to wear them for about a half hour, 45 minutes before discomfort really set in. So I preferred the somewhat smaller, clear wideboard tip. As you can see, they are very small. They just snug right into ears and disappear. The weight of the body of them, it's not really impactful at all on comfort. Isolation of outside noises is very good. Had no issues whatsoever. Blocking out and kind of getting into my own world. Probably somewhere around 60% of outside noises being blocked. Light office duty around the house, they do a very good job of blocking out louder noises like loud TVs, people talking, coffee grinders, and vacuum cleaners are kind of toned down a little bit and muffled. And then around the neighborhood and louder environments, they struggle a little bit, but you're still going to have things muffled. So they do a pretty decent job there. The Sono is fairly easy to drive. I had no issues with dongles or DAPs. They are a little bit sensitive on desktop. I did find that it kind of messed around with the output impedance a little bit and would push things a little too much, and they'd become a little aggressive. Also, they would hiss at times on some desktop stuff. So I mostly use them in a portable usage with dongles and DAPs. Some of the DAPs that I used were the Hibby R5 Gen 2, the Sony A105, and the Sony WM1A. And then also dongles that I used were Hibby FC3, Heidi's XO, the Hibby FC4, the Shanling UA1 Plus, and also the Fosse Audio DS1. And I found that they all drove it with ease. The Sono I did find was a little more pleasurable on a slightly warmer source that had a little bit more neutral, natural tonality to it. Whereas if it was a little too analytical or cold, it could bring out some presence in the upper mids and treble regions. And then if it was too warm and too thick and a little too lush, it could really enhance the bass and kind of bloat it up a little bit. The Shanling Sono, how do they sound? So the Shanling Sono has a very V-shaped sound signature, and you're going to get a lot of presence in the bass and in the upper mids treble region. And the mids are going to be somewhat recessed. The bass is a very fun, very engaging, and you definitely get a lot of it. It is noticeable, and it's loud, it's boisterous, it's powerful, it's authoritative. It goes into the sub bass and you get rumble and grumble, and it's you're gonna feel it. It really drives it home. It's a very visceral type of sub bass, and it's a nice presence to it, and it adds a fun factor. Going into the mid bass also has a lot of thump, a lot of slam, a lot of kick, and a lot of punch, and you're just going to really feel it, and it's going to drive it home. And then the upper bass continues in that way. You're going to get some punch and slam, and you're going to feel it, and it's just really, it's a fun and engaging bass. Tonality is good. It sounds very natural and accurate, and then it has a lot of energy that just moves things along, doesn't get mumbled, doesn't get jumbled, doesn't get confused in anything. It's a very engaging bass, a very fun, and it's a little bit too much elevation, but it's a fun. And so if you're a bass head, you'd probably enjoy this bass quite a bit. The mids do get a little bleed from the bass, and so the lower mids have a little bit of warmth to them, and there's nice body and note weight within the mids. Everything sounds good, nice size, and it has a pleasurableness about it, even though it's a little bit on the recessed side. And you really notice this with mixed groups and choirs. So at some of the instruments that reside in the lowers and going into the uppers are a little bit further back, and then when you get into the upper mids, it's very much elevated, and things will become a little bit too close, borderline shouty. And so if you have a mixed group, the lower octave singers will be back here a little bit, and then the upper octave singers will be a little bit more forward. And so it just kind of throws things off a little bit at times. You don't notice it as much with soloists or like duets, especially if they're singing similarly in octaves ranges. Instruments also do it, pianos, guitars, brass, and woodwind instruments. It was very noticeable. Things will be a little bit behind here, and then they'll kind of get a little bit more powerful and strong as you get up into the higher octaves. But overall, it's a very nice tonality to it. It has nice tone and timbre and good details and resolution. And then going into the treble, the lower treble has that presence like the upper mids, and so it's just a little bit borderline too close. And then especially around 5K, and then there's another peak around 8K, and then it kind of dips out just a little bit, and then around 12, 13K it comes back a little bit, and it shimmers down, and it's not a bad sounding treble. It has nice air and extension. It's just a little bit energetic and has a little bit too much zing and a little too much zippity-doo to it. At times it can be a little bit much, but for the most part, it's a pleasurable treble with good tonality, nice tone and timbre, and good details and resolution. If you're sensitive to upper mids and lower treble, and even a little bit if you're sensitive to upper treble, it could be a little intense for you and be a little bit much. I didn't find it to be too much, but I did find it to be borderline at times. And so it kind of depends on how sensitive you are to upper mids and treble. The Sono has a very good soundstage. So I really enjoy the soundstage of the Sono. It does a good job of portraying different sizes of stages, whether you're small, medium, or large. It doesn't get excessive and have this huge wow factor, but it does a good job of portraying them accurately, small, medium, and large. Depth is alright. It's not the deepest of stages, but it does a pretty decent job of allowing you to look into the stage slightly. And then it does a good job with layering. Things are very well spaced and layered, and you can hear things playing together. It's very cohesive, and then tracking things across the stage is very good. You can follow them across the stage from right to left, and it places things, and you can go, it's right there, it's right there, it's right there. Even though you can't read super far into the stage, you can go, it's right there, it's right there. It's not the most pinpoint accurate, but it's in this area right here. Detail retrieval is good, especially for the price point. You're not going to lack anything. You're not going to miss anything. And then resolution is actually really good for the price point. I was rather surprised at how well it resolves the details that it brings in. Tone and timbre is pretty good, except for those upper mids and treble regions. Every now and then things can sound a little bit off because they're a little bit too elevated, but for the most part, it's a very natural sounding tone and timbre. So the Sono, it's a fun sounding IEM with that weird recessed but yet full sounding mid. It's engaging and it's pleasurable, and it has enough details and resolution to keep things going, and it's just an overall a fun sounding IEM. How does it compare to a couple of other IEMs in its price point? So you have the TruthEar Hexa. Now the TruthEar Hexa is a different presentation. It's more balanced and cohesive sounding and more extended in the treble, but at the same time it's a thinner note weight, doesn't have the impact, and it's just more neutral, analytical leaning, and it is a little bit more harsh sounding in its presentation. Has similar detail retrieval, but it's not as good resolving, and it just doesn't have that engagement factor like the Sono has. And then you have the DUNU Titan S. Now the DUNU Titan S definitely does not have near as much bass, especially in the sub-bass regions, but it is similarly forward in the mids, but it has a little bit more body and is just a little bit more emphasized in the mids. It's not as recessed as the Sono, and then the treble is not as emphasized as it is on the Sono. So it has a good soundstage, but it's a little bit more intimate, does have a little bit better depth, similar detail retrieval and resolution. So The Shanling Sono. Yeah, I like this IEM. It's something different. It's a V shape that I actually like because it has even though it has recessed mids, they have a fullness to them. And the bass is just really fun and engaging, especially if you put that filter, the red filter on, it really brings that bass out. But I used the black filter. And then the treble is sparkly and energetic without being over the top, even though at times it can be a little borderline for me. I just find the Sono to be engaging. And so if you're looking for a fun, engaging IEM, not something that's super neutral or super analytical, but just fun and engaging, and if you're a bass head and you like bass and treble, check out the Sono. It's been Dave, the Honest Audiophile. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Speaking of next video, somewhere on screen, subscription links, notification bells. If you haven't already, please check those off. Don't forget to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the video, and check out all the links down below. There's all kinds of ways that you can contact the channel, follow the channel, support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, I want to thank all my supporters through Patreon and YouTube memberships for all that they give to the channel. It is much appreciated. Thank you very much for all your love and support. If you are interested in supporting the channel, please know that all funds given to the channel do go back into the channel. And there's all kinds of ways that you can do it, through one-time gifts with PayPal and Venmo, or through monthly subscriptions with YouTube memberships and Patreon. Some of those tiers do offer access to my private Discord server, and also you can get other benefits like one-on-one conversations or live streams with only patrons and YouTube members. So check out those links if you're interested in supporting the channel. And lastly, don't forget to enjoy the music and that honesty is the best policy.